From New York, you are listening to Extra Time. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, Matt Doyle, David Goss, Dr. Tom Scoops. Tom Bogert. What's up, guys?
I'm disappointed you didn't do that intro in Portuguese.
I thought about it halfway through,
yeah,
and I didn't have a chance in hell.
Could you
so
can't
I just
do
said
it?
no.
Yeah.
No,
You were going to try to
no.
do Portuguese on the fly?
That was
Halfway
not
through a
required.
sentence?
Well,
not required upon my visit to Portugal.
Yeah, were you here last month when he did the whole intro in Spanish? And he
Oh, that's right. I was listening to that show. Obviously, I remember.
Oh,
Parceiros no football would be partners in soccer.
I like it. Yeah, it has a good ring to it.
Portuguese is a gross language. No
yeah.
offense
From
to
what
Portuguese people.
I understand, like a lot of people who speak Spanish can speak Portuguese, and a lot of people who speak Portuguese can speak Spanish, but they're not like transliterative.
I think normally it goes the second more. Portuguese
Yes.
can speak Spanish.
Yeah, it's like it's a very distinct Romance language. So were you able to pick any of it up?
Obrigado.
Okay,
That's what we got.
So the same thing you
Bom
came out of
dia.
Brazil
You
can
with
definitely-
8 years ago.
Yeah.
You
Bom dia.
Bom
Yeah.
dia.
You could
Bom
definitely
tarde.
order a beer.
Bom noche.
Yeah.
Muito.
No,
I don't know.
I can't even say beer. Beer is like cerveja,
I didn't expect that of
but
you.
it's with 18 other letters.
Yeah, I didn't.
I know a lot of curse words and soccer slang in Portuguese. I had a couple of Portuguese.
Tom from New Jersey has entered the chat.
Yes.
What's up, everybody? We're back. We're glowing. At least Dave and I are off a beautiful Portuguese vacation. Maybe sweating, depending on the time of day that you saw David Goss in Lisbon. No comment on that one. It is my second favorite show of the year. First favorite is always the prediction show because we are just throwing anything and everything against the wall. And second favorite is the award show. That is today, October 16th, right now on Extra Time. Refreshed, back in the host seat, ready to do it. And you can't hold us to any of it because we haven't put our votes in, right? Nobody's actually committed.
No, because
No
there's
votes
still
are
a
in.
game left.
Are you going to have
Or
another
the two.
vacation before decision day?
Would like to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom's on fire. I'm glad I'm on Tom's side.
All right. We are saving our best 11s for Thursday's show. And again, we say best 11s. Tom has taken up the mantle on this one. Last year we did 5. Is that where we feel secure in that 5
I think
best
we
11s
should dial it
covers
back and limit it to 3. I actually think less is more in this conversation.
I'm pretty sure last year
You guys
we
are absolutely walking out of here
talked
with
about
7.
the 3 and you created a 4th
Yes, that's-
on the
no,
show
yes,
while
and
we were
live.
talking about
We did
the
4
3.
and 5.
That
I
was
already-
you.
I already-
and then
I already
we did a
explained this
5
bit.
because we felt like
And
we
it's
had
now
to.
it's now become canon because Wade Witten hit us up and said, I was listening to Sounder at Heart's Nos Auditus. I said that wrong. When the Nos Audietes. I'm so sorry, Jeremiah. When the co-host said that
At
he
least
agrees,
you got Sounder at heart,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Instead of Sounders at heart.
And there's an apostrophe S on this one. This is tricky.
All right, save your corrections till the end of the show. The co-host said he agrees MLS should add a second best 11 and also brought up how I'd like to see a non-designated player 11. So, says Wade, I'd like to hear Doyle, when he adds his 5th 11 to the list this year, to do one with no DPs. Will you disappoint Wade
Live
and
long
all the
enough
people
to
at
see
home?
yourself become the villain.
Ugh.
You're the 11s guy.
No, Wiebe used to write that column. Weebe's got best 11 of like X, Y, and Z.
I used to best 11 of
I'm
anything.
not going to do it no DPs best 11. I'm not going to do it. Not on the show, not
You
off the top of
refuse.
my head. Yeah, I refuse to do it.
I might do
I think
it.
you're going to be able to bait him into it without him noticing.
I'll
Next
wait.
show.
I promise. I promise I'll have one ready just in case Doyle doesn't, but I expect him
No,
to
because
be right.
Weeby will
I
start
mean, the
listening on
back
Doyle,
line,
like, no,
right?
you're wrong. Shut up. Let me just do
We
it.
would do
I'll
it.
give
It
you
would
my
be a
11.
3-5-2, right? It would probably be Miazga, Janssen, and Jackson Reagan. It would be Kai Wagner, Barriel at left wing back. Who's our right? No, okay.
Just step. I was saying step back and let him cook.
Right wing
Right.
back is probably Ryan Hollingshead this year.
Gressel.
Anders is in my ear saying Alex rolled on.
Well, we're literally about to do almost all of this.
Okay.
So we've done. No, I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
No, we're gonna prime
so
the
we
pump.
have the lists
Yeah,
ready
yeah,
to go.
We're gonna prime the pump here.
DP is D-mid's an interesting one.
It's October
because
this year.
for non-DP.
Tune
for
back in
non-DP.
next show for
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
So we are going to do, of course, the extra time designated
Duncan McGuire.
defensive midfielder of
Brian
the year.
White.
Duncan McGuire is going to get his shine on today's show. We do all the MLS official awards. It is award season. You see people unwisely putting out their ballot
put
now.
up twinkle lights for the season.
Shouldn't do that. You should just wait. Wait till decision day at least. So we'll go through all the official awards. And then, of course, over the years, we have developed a laundry list of extra time awards to fill in all the gaps that need to be filled in, whether it's the Goss Theorem Player of the Year, the Canadian Player of the Year, the left or right back of the year. We go all the way down to, we have a Golden Years player of the year. Got to be 35 plus, which is everybody but you guys at this table, right?
So
Are you-
half of
This
the
half of
table?
the table.
Yeah,
is-
that's not.
Yeah, we're the Golden Years.
Everyone
half.
is not 50.
Well, I was debating on you. I know
50%
you're around
of the table.
No,
cutoff.
I'm not there.
You know,
Mm,
I just
I still have a
around.
couple years.
Yeah, I just said around the cutoff.
Yeah, relax.
Just close.
But I'm definitely old enough that I wouldn't sign myself in Football Manager, and that's been a
Nice.
tough revelation the last few years.
Oh wow.
Anyway, we got Executive of the Year. Bargain
Tom
bin
Bogert signed
transaction.
himself to a 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 contract.
Any other reason you wouldn't sign yourself to?
Because I'm suspended, probably. A lot of red card accumulation. yellow
Well,
card
can you
accumulation.
just, before Anders has already said, look, I'm lessening the time on each of your awards, but I have time to just hear how you got the red card. That's all I need.
It's a shorter version of the ref is somebody that used to play with my dad. He's been cut a few times because he's soft. And let's just say he doesn't appreciate me arguing with him. And then I got a red card by expletives to him. And then he said, I'm not resuming the game until Bogey leaves. And I was like, good.
Oh, so this you guys
good.
are
F
this is
you
a first
again.
first name, last name basis between you
Yeah,
two.
he's
Well, the guy played with his dad.
Oh, I didn't hear that part. Anders was talking to me.
Oh.
Yeah.
yeah.
Bingo. Domino.
Domino.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So
All
again, and then I let him have some more on the way out, and then went to the parking lot, took off my cleats. and had
So-
another light.
Are he and your dad still friends?
Yeah, but
I like to
If-
get to
if-
discuss this
let's
at
just say he-
Darcy's, for instance.
he
over a
wouldn't. He
pint.
wouldn't be. Well, if I was at Darcy's, he'd still be getting yelled at by me. So.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's a good, well-adjusted way to start
that's
engagement.
like a
Yeah.
miserable
Don't be. I mean,
experience, man.
David, I know from our
I
experience.
know that Dave is
together on
appreciating this.
amateur soccer fields, we're not exactly the ones to deliver this message, but maybe don't do that.
Yeah, do as I say,
much
not
you-
as I do.
Yeah, as much
don't
as you can
recommend
on amateur soccer fields. All right.
Fine.
Dave's like, that sounds like a Monday to me.
Yeah.
That's great.
nah. You guys all sound out of control. I'm in control.
Okay, let's get into it. We'll start with the traditional awards. The Landon Donovan MLS MVP. Tom, do the duties on this one. We have unanimously decided among us right now, our votes go to one man, and that is.
That's Lucho Costa. Look, I think Danny Buonga's had a great season. I know that we're gonna name some other players, Hector Herrera, but like Lucho from start to finish, he really carried this team at the beginning. Brandon Vasquez still hasn't hit the level that he was at last year. Brenner was a non-factor before he got sold. Aaron Bupenza is still coming up to speed. Like, look, Barrial has been awesome for them. Their defensive structure has been really good as well. Like, that's been the backbone of this team. But they're winning points with Lucho Costa. He's carrying this team in the attack. He is, if we want to do numbers, he's got 29 combined goal contributions with 16 goals and 13 assists. He's got then you do eye test and everything runs through him for this team. Like, look, I don't want to be dismissive of the other players, but like for me, this is pretty clear cut as Lucho Costa.
I just remember games that when you talk about MVP, most valuable. One, it's how you level up the players around you, and that's been so very clear from Lucha's entire time in Cincinnati that the club and the culture has changed, and of course that comes with new management and a new front office and players around him. But in the moments they needed him, it always seemed like he
That's
was
the
there.
big thing.
In Vancouver, when he's like, okay, we're not going to play him on turf midweek. Okay, well he comes off the bench, gets the goal. And I remember 5 or 6 other moments during the season where it's just like, okay, well who's going to make that difference? And when it's always the same guy on the league's best team making that difference, that's where MVP gets pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And I went back looking through some of like our goal of the week stuff earlier in the year. He was in goal of the week basically 80% of the time the first half of the season. And that's when Cincinnati was winning games by 1 goal.
Yep.
Like it was his goal and it was a spectacular goal, or it was him dropping a 50-yard dime onto Baji's foot and Baji cutting a guy, or I think Brenner's only goal before he left as well. Like every box you want to check as an MVP. He should. This is no disrespect, as you said. Buonga had a great season. We're going to name a couple other guys later, on in the show. Lucha should win it unanimously in terms of what we think of as value. He is both the locus of where value ends up on the field because he's finishing off these team movements, but he's also the creator of the value in the first place with his passing, with his progression, with his dribbling. Also, sometimes this year with his defense, which we never would have expected.
And one quick point, like what would these numbers have been if they didn't clinch the Shield so early? Like if the Shield was going down to decision day, like he wouldn't have sat a couple games and like it would have been a little bit
He
different.
probably would have won the Golden Boot.
Yeah, right. Like and he still
Like,
would
he's
have had a
gonna
chance
finish
if
second.
Buonga didn't score 5 goals last week.
But he's going to finish second, and he's not a goal. Like that's
No, yeah.
Yeah.
the biggest thing.
Who are
he does.
we're running down on time, and we're going to ignore this first buzzer as is tradition. Who are your two other finalists, Dave? Who would be the other two you would bring into this group?
I don't. Dennis Bouanga's one of them. I didn't know we were going to do this.
Roman Berkey's
Roman
the other.
Berkey's in the convo as well.
No, he's not.
Ache's in the convo, but then you get into Open Cup being a different conversation, and then Hani Mukhtar as well. Carlos Heel's numbers also are still all in these top
Crazy.
echhelons, and it's a team that's had a
I would
ton
take
of-
Cucho, and Ryan.
before
Gold
I
in
would
the top
take
5, yeah.
That's fine.
Hani or
Definitely.
Heel.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're talking about 4th and 5th place now. Move us along. Gabe.
All right,
Come
those
on.
are the also Rans, which is still a
They're also
category
both
to be.
super-
Well, for MVP, hey.
Most of those people are going to win awards.
And we'll probably give them one.
Yeah.
Well, let's continue on. Best goalkeeper of the year. It's Roman Berkey's award.
Yeah.
It's just it's an open and shut case. And I was having a conversation on Twitter with folks in San Jose while I was in Portugal and shouldn't have been arguing about MLS goalkeeper of the year. And Daniel has an amazing shout and has a great season.
On a per 90 basis, Daniel has actually
Yeah.
been marginally better than Roman Berkey, but Berkey's played more minutes and he's done it for a better team.
Not just more minutes, 1,000 more minutes.
1,000 more
Yeah,
minutes.
I mean, we're talking about basically 10 games of contribution. And when you go into these traditional awards, I mean, availability is a big part of it to me. Like, you have to have been able to impact your team over the course of an entire season. And that's why we're not talking about a guy like Georgi Petrovic, even though he has amazing numbers in the same way in goalkeeper, because he was around for 2/3 of the season instead of the full season. But Roman Berkey has set the tone from the start. He has been there in moments where St. Louis and that back line needed him based on the way that they play and the chances they give up. It is not always clean and perfect. And it has been absurd saves repeatedly, but then also just the expected ones. Just consistency and someone to not just meet but exceed expectations every single time he's come out. I don't remember a howler from Berkey.
There's one.
Either.
One?
The penalty that he conceded recently, he kind
Oh.
of, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Nitpicking, I probably should
Tom
Tom
made
didn't
sure
need to say
to
that.
remember one of them.
Yeah.
I could just feel the comments coming. Like, everybody
But-
has mistakes. So, like, again, Lucho's probably missed a sitter this season, so I probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know?
But the point is, even when like St. Louis has had a remarkable year, but they haven't had remarkable health. Right, they've had to chop and change that back line in front of them. D-Mid has been, I think Bloom is their first choice guy, but he hasn't always been there. The one constant has been Roman Berkey. Daniel's great. Probably goes into next year as the favorite to win this award. Berkey should win it unanimously.
Roman Berkey.
Doyle has a lot of unanimous decisions.
These
here.
two, these two are
Doyle's
pretty.
like, if I'm voting it, unanimous. In my opinion.
You have the same vote.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm still.
You're one of
we
4
did a
people
vote
to
between
be
the four
unanimous.
of us.
It is
And
literally
that was
unanimous.
unanimous.
Let me
and it
bring it
was
back.
unanimous.
Christian Castros Jr. got an MVP vote 2 seasons ago. None of this is ever going to be unanimous.
So just because you mentioned per 90 stuff and minutes, Georgi Petrovic is probably going to finish the year playing more MLS minutes than Daniel.
Yeah.
And he's equally second or third, not the per 90 stuff, but overall numbers. Can he get on a ballot? Like, will people vote for him? Would you vote for him? Or would you put him in your top 3?
It's hard to vote
I mean,
for somebody
I
who's not in
voted
the league
for
anymore.
I voted for Georgi Petrovic last year, even though he played 2,000 minutes and Blake played 2,900 or whatever it was.
Okay.
It's just, I think it's hard to put a guy who's not in the league on a ballot like this. But we had to mention him, and we did it. So congratulations, Roman Berkey. I expect you to win this unanimously. Defender of the year. This one had debate. We were split down the middle of the table, I believe, here. This is the Robin Janssen side. Doyle and I.
That's right.
Same
And also
team.
Tom.
The olds
No.
against the youngs.
No.
Also, Tom.
Tom voted.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
It's okay.
Oh, my bad.
It's okay.
Okay.
Can you not call me an olds then? Do I say? I would change my vote if I have to.
Well, our average age is still older than Dave. So
Sorry
give
about
us the case. Robin Janssen. Why did we go Robin Janssen?
Just with the ball, he's the best defender in the league. What he does in terms of progressing Orlando upfield, no one else in MLS can match that with both his dribbling past the first line of a press and, of course, his passing. That left foot is magical. And then he's also very good to excellent defensive presence, and they needed that this year because Antonio Carlos has been pretty frequently out of the lineup. So just in terms of degree of difficulty of what he did defensively and then degree of excellence of what he does in possession for the second best team in the league, There are other guys with cases like this one. There are 3 or 4 guys who I could say, yeah, that guy maybe deserves Defender of the Year. But I just think what Janssen had to do this season with the pieces around him not always being functional or not always being in the right spots, I think it was tougher than what the other guys had to do. And for that, he gets the nod from me.
Does have 2 very good midfielders in front of him.
He does, but not always.
No, that's fair. It's fair. The other guys in the
start of the season, Orlando was gutting out a lot of 0-0s and 1-1s with Mauricio Pereira playing as an 8, and he's not much of a defensive presence. And Araujo was not great to start the season in front of him. So that actually goes into it.
Jackson Reagan and Ymar split some votes and some opinions on this panel. And then Matt Miazga was the other one that I think has a very good chance to win the actual award.
Might actually be the favorite.
I think he's going to, but
except for clearly at this table. Cincinnati is top 3 defense in the league. They obviously won the Supporters Shield. They challenged across multiple competitions and still were able to. And the whole conversation around Lucho at the beginning of this show was they won a ton of games 1-0. This was a team that was winning games 5-4 last year. Miazga's come in. He's helped stabilize the back line. They brought in a young center back in Mosquera who is off the charts talented. That's not historically players that have been able to hit immediately in MLS. They've turned Hagelin into a usable center back as well. Ian Murphy, whatever you want, whoever.
There's been a bunch of in that when you go 3 in the back, which obviously they don't really do. There's just been a bunch of movement
with Barrial full freedom to attack Arias in and out of the team, and a player in Roman Celentano who's been fantastic, but is a young goalkeeper who struggles at times to manage the box and has been a little bit worse this year than he was last year, which is fine. Miazga has been the center of all of that. That's gone right for them. So they're a Supporters Shield winning team. They had a chance to set a record. They went to an Open Cup semifinal, which I know we don't count. All of those things they did with him at the center of the strength of the team.
Other names in this one for us: Tim Parker was there, Reyes and Nealis in the Red Bulls back line. It was hard to pick one or the other. Tafari for FC Dallas has had a great season, and then Jack Elliott and Jakob Glesnes are generally around this conversation as well. But this panel picked Robin Janssen, and Dave is probably going to be on the right side of history, quote unquote, because I expect Matt Miazga to win that award. Sigi Schmid, Coach of the Year. This was unanimous, Tom. Bradley Carnell was our choice. Please explain why, and then we'll try to go through who else deserves to be in this conversation.
Yeah, look, it's I think statistically so far the best modern expansion season in MLS history.
Yeah.
Doyle, look at me.
Do we not consider the Fire to be modern?
It's from I don't know what the literal term is or not, but that
Was
I
there
agree with
shootouts
that.
when the
There's
Fire
10
came
teams
in?
in the league
Points.
that-
What's that?
Was there
1998.
shootouts when the Fire came in?
In 98?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then they're not modern.
Okay, fair enough.
If someone's dribbling from 30 yards away, they're not modern.
Fair enough.
So yeah, and then like look, it's a really difficult job, and just the confluence from again the front office through the head coaching through the players, like it's all been aligned. What Bradley Carnell has done with this group, again, we said it a little bit before. There's been a lot of ins and outs. There's been not a whole lot of constants outside of like Berkey. Like Klaus was out for a while. Leuven was out for a while. They've, rotated wingers in and out. Like Jared Stroud started the season very good. And then, Nico Gioacchini came on through the middle of the season. It was just like everybody that came in and played well. And that's a credit again to the players themselves, obviously, but the structure that Bradley Carnell has had and all of the like man management stuff in addition to his tactical work. Again, look, 56 points right now after 33 games. For an expansion team that we all picked last or second to last in the league. And that reflects on us being stupid, but also that like they very much exceeded expectations.
Yeah, this is a team in which they've had a great year, and I think you could put their style and their commitment to the style and their ability to execute it as 3 of the top reasons why, and that's going to get you a Coach of the Year.
I give credit to Bradley Carnell and the entire staff and the squad, but every time there was that run or that blip where you thought, boy, they win 5 straight, then they lost 2 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
You thought, well, that beat Cincinnati 5-1 at home the next match. There was always a correction 3 games after that, but then it was a 3-game win streak. There was always a response, even after Leagues Cup, same thing, where they said, okay, we hit a tough moment. And for expansion teams, generally those are where you either see them collapse or sort of normalize and get back to sort of the
For most teams, not just expansion.
7 to 10 range if they're lucky. So Bradley Carnell has had an incredible season.
And I would say we're going to talk about executive of the year later, but like he was the MLS experience in this group that was pulling, I think, a lot of these pieces that have been successful that he knew from around the league.
Yeah.
Over the last 5 years of him working under Red Bulls.
Credit to Hackworth as well, John Hackworth, and then the entire executive staff. We'll get into that in a second. Here are the other names we had. Pat Noonan, of course, and it's like the Wilfred Nancy honorary Coach of the Year award, where last year we really thought it was Wilfred, but Jim hadn't won it and he deserved it, and he's just going to come up a little bit short probably. Nancy's probably in the same boat again.
Jim had won it.
Last year was
pretty much.
Oh yeah, that was the whole thing. That was
everyone thought Cherundolo was going to win it last year, and then Jim won it.
Revisionist
right?
MLS history here from me. My bad. Ben Olsen has to be in this conversation.
Yep, for sure.
And Oscar Pareja. Then you had Vanni Sartini.
Yeah, there's a decent chance if Vancouver wins this weekend, they'll finish third.
By the way,
or next weekend.
Vanni Sartini out of contract after this year.
Oh,
we didn't mention that on last week's show. We should have. Yeah.
It's a good flag. Newcomer of the year.
Yeah, when I was listening to last week's show, when I was on vacation, I yelled, Vanni Sartini.
I didn't finish the second. I did listen to the first one I was away for, though.
You're disgusting.
On the train to Porto.
Legend.
Yeah, I just had to fit that one in. Newcomer of the year. Again, unanimous, Tom. Georgios Giacomakis is our newcomer of the year. We, in these official MLS awards, limit it to only MLS play, which is the way that those awards should be. And the ExtraTime awards will widen it to the greater universe of Open Cup and Canadian Championship and Leagues Cup and everything else. Giacomakis is number one here, just absolutely goal-starved and fills it up. So I think coming into the league, being in the Golden Boot conversation, if he would have played more minutes, probably would have won it. He's now doing it, of course, internationally. But between the other candidates here, Bossy, good year, not at that level. Daniel, good year, probably in the conversation. Evander, if you expand it, he's probably in there. Leuven is the candidate that St. Louis put forward and didn't put Klaus. What are we doing?
St. Louis only nominated Edward Leuven, who I think I would have second or third on this list. They didn't nominate Klaus, and they didn't nominate Roman Berkey. And I think if Roman Berkey was on this list, I would probably voted him newcomer of the year as well as goalkeeper of the year. However, he was signed
last year,
middle of 2022.
But so was Leuven and Klaus.
So was Leuven. Okay, so that didn't play into it. They just have Leuven instead. Trying to not split the vote, I guess.
Yeah.
If
Klaus, by the way, is
all year
0.73 goals per 90, and Giacomakis is 0.79. So Klaus, he got hurt, but he's in that same conversation.
If he's around all year, I think he probably ends up winning.
And his team is better.
Yeah. Tomas Chankala is a name to keep an eye on here. I
forced this
one
on.
I think didn't Pipa Higuain win newcomer of the year, and maybe Ladero did as well when they came midseason. They were that impactful. Tomas Chankala has not been quite at that level, but he's
got 6 goals in 10 appearances, 9 starts.
Seems like he's for sure Gustavo Bow's.
He's gonna light MLS on fire next year.
Young Player of the Year, David Goss. Again, unanimous award for
Thiago Almada.
Thank you.
He won a World Cup. I think that's all you kind of need to do. He's the only player in this conversation. We'll mention some of the other names, who's also in an MVP, a genuine MVP conversation. Is the best player on their team, is the best player on a team that's going to make the playoffs, that could contend in the playoffs. Almada's on a level that none of the other young players.
Second in the league in goal contributions. 11 goals and 17 assists, so behind only Lucho.
Best probably free kick taker in the league, both passing and shooting.
Other than, some other Argentinian number.
Yeah, I don't know what we're doing with that.
Yeah.
But one who's played.
Okay.
Okay. And carried this team early. This is a team that made wholesale changes in the middle of the season, and they are a much better team coming out of Leagues Cup than they were. Before that, they got results almost purely on his back, and he carried them through a lot of really bad games or to 3-3 draws in games that they shouldn't have gotten results, and they have been safely a playoff team over the last few weeks purely because of his play. He's been consistent. He's been healthy. So everything about what he's done this year, he is head and shoulders above everyone else on this list, which is unfortunate for anyone who graduated college this year and went to a draft it's not a rookie of the year anymore. It is a young player.
Which is good. I think it's more appropriate to recognize young player of the year than rookie of the year. We could recognize rookie of the year on the show if we want. But the thing with Almada...
We have an award for just that.
Oh, that's sorry. The thing with Almada is he had so much weight of expectation on him coming into the season because he was part of that Argentina team that won the World Cup, because he is expected to be the most expensive outgoing transfer in MLS history, because Atlanta still think of themselves as a big club with trophy potential in that lineup. And it was a mess to start the year, and he rose to exceed, I think, what I expected of him this season, even as things were a mess around him in the attack, and even as the midfield was always under construction, and even as Miles Robinson and Brad Guzan were still getting up to speed. And then now, after the summer window, when Atlanta did such good work and they are a better team, he is still raising his game and is more comfortable, I think, even just being a part of it all rather than the absolute focal point. Just a fantastic player, fantastic season.
Yeah, he'll probably finish the year second on goals, assists combined.
Yeah, Anders has listed 17 other candidates for Young Player of the Year here. Dave, do you have comment on the veracity of the length of that list or quality therein?
No, it's just no. I just got annoyed the way Anders read it the first time I heard it, so I yelled trash at him.
Yeah. And then we established that many of the nominees are not, in fact, mid.
Yeah. This is an in control guy.
Yeah. All right, here's our last official award category. The Comeback Player of the Year we have awarded to non-official winners. The Ben Bear Comeback Player of the Year, who's coming back from being not very good, or,
nice.
in Dave's...
Which is a long
trash.
list, by the way.
Alexander Matan, what a season from Matan, part of the Wilfred Nancy Coach of the Year, resume here. Matan was sent away, essentially, because they didn't have a use for him.
We've told that story on this show before. Like, they were going to just get rid of him this offseason, and Wilfred Nancy was like, no, hold on a sec.
Yeah, let me see.
We can work with that.
Yeah, let's rebuild that.
Goal and 11 assists.
That's
What?
incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Then there's the David Goss Comeback Player of the Year for a player he doesn't rate but was and still is good.
I don't even know.
That's
how this
Felipe
one
Mora.
happened.
Yeah,
Felipe
we're
Mora
just
is
gonna
that
dunk on
player.
you anytime Felipe Mora
Fair.
does something good.
Yeah, that's fair.
How about you?
Really good
Go
player,
ahead?
yeah.
You have the David Goss Theorem Award coming up, so I'll do this one. Alan Pulido was our choice for Comeback Player of the Year. Alan Pulido. So from oft injured, oft absent, but effective every single time he was actually on the field, to often on the field and still just as effective for Sporting Kansas City. Arguably the best number 9 in the league.
Arguably, I think the underlying stats like Yakumakis, Brian White, a few others more, but in terms of what he did for that team, and Peter Vermees, to his credit, kept saying it at the start of the year when Sporting got off to that disastrous 10-game start. He's like, yeah, we're without our DP number 9 and our DP number 10, and it's tough to be good when you're without your two best players. And Pulido came back and he was their best player, and I think they've been up around 1.8, 1.9 points per game with him this year, and down around like 0.3 points per game without him. And so we're talking about a team that would be not quite in the Shield race, but very clearly a playoff team, top 4 in the Western Conference, versus like the worst team in MLS history. And that is, the definition of value. If you look at what Johnny Russell and Daniel Shalloy do when he's on the field, he plays that number 9. He is the playmaker and the goal scorer, and it works for this team. And I didn't think he was going to come back and do that.
He played himself into a new contract as well. I know that we had this
Then immediately got injured.
Just sit down, please.
I was just going to ask Tom you this question. 2,100 minutes ish this year.
I don't trust it.
14 goals, 3 assists.
I don't trust
3
it
additional years on this designated player contract through 2026. Does Alan Pulido ever better these numbers in goals or in minutes? 14 goals, 2,128 minutes.
I don't know. I don't like this one's. It's so difficult because like if you could guarantee me, hell, even this season, 2,200 minutes or whatever it ends up being after decision day, I would sign that contract immediately. Be like, yeah, that's a good investment. Like whatever, just plan for him to not be there for 10 or 12 games. But like, I don't trust
I don't
it.
think
So
Yeah.
my
He's in
point,
his early 30s, like he's not going to get less injury prone.
My-
right? Like
my point before they signed the contract, which I thought they should, which is I don't know that this club spends enough money to get the
Also
production
fair.
that he brings. And they've signed Willie Agata now.
Yep.
And they have the option to bring in other players that they think can fill in around him if he's hurt. And I think you can set your team up, which is if you can get 20 games out of him, you're good enough to make the playoffs. And then he's the best player on the field in most playoff games you play in. if you can manage him
If
correctly.
he's there, like 2020, he was hurt in the playoffs, right? Like he was trying to come back, and then he's missed most of the last couple seasons.
That's the gamble.
But 2020, he was still playing with the national team.
Other guys in the discussion, we mentioned Felipe Mora, Alexandre Matan, Miles Robinson coming back from that torn ACL. I think he's been Achilles. I think he's been pretty good, not to his previous level just yet. Brad Guzan, he came back from a torn
came back
Achilles.
in season.
He hasn't been great. João Paulo, I don't think that João Paulo has gotten enough pub. Like there is a very clear link between João Paulo getting injured last season and the Sounders missing the playoffs. He has come back. The Sounders have the second best defense in the league.
I think people got a little bit of like a João Paulo MVP candidate for
I think so. But they have the second best defense in the league, best by the underlying numbers. He's a huge part of that.
Got to shout out Damir Kreilach on this one real quick as well. It seemed like he might. Yes, I understand. But Damir, it didn't seem like he was going to play Anders ever again, and he's back, if not back at his absolute best. But he's back. Extra Time Awards. These are ours and ours alone. You can't vote on them. You can't influence them unless you send us packages like this, and then this beautiful purple box that we have here that will yes. So we might actually be easily influenced.
Taking bribes.
Anybody have a Ryan Gauld working class MVP hat?
I do not, and I'm devastated about it.
Oh, we can
Are
get
you
it for you
kidding
after
me?
this. Yes. Sorry about that.
You got one?
Yeah, no, we got a ton.
Where was I?
You were gone. You were in
Abu Dhabi.
I was in
Come on.
Egypt. I was in Cairo.
Yeah, this is why you didn't. Obviously, you don't listen to the show on your travels.
I was eating beans.
Yeah, that's
Fair.
So these are the Extra Time Awards. They include everything. It's not just Major League Soccer. It is anything that happened all year long, and they run the gamut from best transactions to the personality of the year to the American, Canadian, Concacaf Player of the Year, etc. But we will always and forever start them with the most important of the Extra Time Awards, the David Goss Theorem Award for a second-year player bump. Explain the award quickly for people that don't understand, and then get into it.
For players coming to Major League Soccer for the first time in their career, mainly players who are not American or Canadian, but not exclusively, we leave something aside to celebrate the ones that take a year to settle in before we spend 6 months saying that this player is terrible and the signing was the worst signing ever, and then we spend the next year celebrating them.
Hani Mukhtar.
And Denny Bawanga
disappointing
finish.
in 2020,
Yeah.
and then 2021 MVP caliber season.
Yeah. Lucho Acosta, in his career,
I thought Lucho, when
Not
he came
direct.
in 2016, he was awesome from the jump with DC.
Up and down.
no, up and down, and then the Rooney, whatever.
Well,
Doesn't matter.
I'm saying,
So that's what the award celebrates. This year was actually a pretty easy one than some other years. And there are a lot of really big name players. So Dennis Bouanga, I think, is in the conversation. Struggled finishing last year. Ended up being a big piece of the playoffs.
so yeah, I think he was good last year. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't even have.
But he was not Golden Boot
yeah.
winner.
Wow.
I mean, he was
when
an
it's the
MVP.
Tom Bogert Award, you can come in and make choices about that. Too.
I put Facundo Torres, whose raw numbers aren't exactly better. They're per 90, but I think the level of importance he has and the way he carries the team through the way they play. Benteke's a big one. Joe Aquini, again, doesn't have to be a foreign-based player. Joe Aquini came to MLS for the first time. But the obvious winner is Ache Ache. He was borderline irrelevant last year. I don't know that he even finished
They were
playing.
worse with him on the field.
Yeah.
And didn't he not play like the last few games where it was like
he was
this-
focused on being ready for the World Cup.
Right.
It was like RC
So
Royal.
he came in this year. He is basically top 5 in most categories in terms of chance creation, importance. He's top 5 in terms of passing, just percentage and completion of he dominates the game for Houston. He's learned how to play off Coco. He's fit into Ben Olsen, and we are allowed to apply to everything here. He won a U.S. Open Cup with his team. He has been exactly the signing they thought he would be after a half season last year or a little bit less of being one of the worst signings.
And I mean, in the spirit of this award, he's even said in interviews, like, I kind of wanted to get the hell out.
Yep.
I kind of just wanted to be like,
And now he's
this
out
ain't it.
there. Now he's out there saying, like, hey, Mexican national team fans, you fill up the biggest stadium in Houston for El Tri games. Come see us. We play good soccer. We play winning soccer. So he's out there being a brand ambassador.
He's also worked his way back into the national team through his play in Houston.
Freaking
Yeah.
awesome for Houston.
And-
You were talking about passing percentage and completions and all that, and like his usage rate is really high, and he doesn't spray his passes. The underlying numbers also absolutely love the passes that he's hitting.
Yeah.
Because if you watch them play, and like, look, Coco Carrasquilla too, but these guys, they move play to the most valuable spots on the field without ever giving possession away. And Ache is at the center of all that.
And one more underlying number to he's in the 99th percentile in shot creating actions, and I don't think we think about Hector Herrera as a player like
No,
that.
we
his
15
ability,
assists, second in MLS.
yeah, his ability to make those runs into the box and be another option and sort of pop up has changed the way the possession has turned into actual goals for Houston as the season's gone along.
I just want to make one final point on the culture side. They had to get rid of Paulo Nagamura before the season was up last year because the culture was that bad within that locker room. Think about how much that's changed. Yes, Ben Olsen is a part, but Ache being completely bought in changes the response of every single player around him in the locker room, and it's changed the fortunes of the Houston Dynamo. Okay, American of the Year. Last year, Jesus Ferreira was our winner. This year, Tom, take it away.
Yeah, for us, I think it's Matt Miazga.
For us, is it unanimous? Did we?
I don't know.
Okay.
Just check. This has been. 400 voters are not going to all have the same vote.
Well, there's only 4 of us.
Yeah.
I just want to
That's
say they should for MVP and goalkeeper of the year. It's onward.
Anyway, Matt Miazga is the best defender on the Supporters Shield winning team. He's been really important on the field. But I was speaking to people at the club that so last summer when they signed Miazga, that was their top target. That's when they were thinking about Yerson Mosquera. They're like, maybe we could even get him on a discount, like a permanent deal, because he hasn't, broken through to Wolves yet, right? And they were like, we don't have a leader in central defense. We like Mosquera is very talented, but I don't know how well he'd work without like a anchor leader next to him. And that was one of the things that they saw and wanted in Miazga and valued in Miazga. So in addition to how well he's played and everything he means to this team, And I was getting anecdotes from preseason about how Matt Miazga was so important for Yerson Mosquera as well, that it's not just him, it's the impact he has on players around him. So again, we can talk about the box score numbers of goals against and how good the defense is and everything else, but the ways that are more difficult to quantify of why this team is so good, Matt Miazga has a big hand in it.
Sounds like a defender of the year, too.
Slight edge to Robin Jansen.
Point made, Tom. Well said.
Look, also the New Jersey Player of the Year, it must be said. So, Tom.
Shout out Clifton.
Yeah, that's why we got you in there. Brian White has got to be at home thinking, what can I do?
Shouldn't be from Flemington, Brian White. Should be from Clifton.
15 goals, 5 assists. Big part in Vancouver winning Canadian Championship as well. Like that, I think we factor that into our Extra Time awards. He's been everything you could ask for from a target number 9. And he's one of the great stories over the past couple of years, because Vancouver traded $400,000 for him a couple of years ago. And he is the only non-DP in the top 10 in MLS in goal contributions. I mean, he is one of the best center forwards in the league. What has struck me about it is he used to only be a fox in the box. He find those chances that are kind of come off of ugly play. And to be fair, that's how the Red Bulls play. So that's all he could show. But this he's finishing on the break this year. He's drifting through the back post to find those Wando headers, but he also will dunk on a dude. He's had a number of times. Anytime he gets matched up on a fullback, it's mouse in the house time. He's been really fun to watch. I think I would go Miazga just because of the case that Dave made for him for Defender of the Year, and the case Tom just made for him. But it's really close. And 2 more goals this weekend from Brian White. It's I don't know. Maybe I'll flip my vote.
I would just like to throw in, I think Jesus Ferreira should be in the running for this again. I think he has more responsibility. He does more. He's 95th percentile in expected assists, but the team around him is pretty terrible. He's a DP, hence why he can't be on the list that Brian White is on, but he's a young DP who's carrying his team. So
we also had Aiden Morris and Darlington Nagbe, good combo there. Sean Nealis, we just got to keep saying that name. I know he can't score the ball too, although he sometimes does. Jackson Reagan. Again, sure. I know Anders kind of bullied us into that, but rightfully so. Jackson Reagan's been great.
We had to put Dax on this list. Dax has been really good once again. And he has played a ton of minutes for that team at what we'll get to as a golden age.
I would like to take the time to acknowledge Corey Baird as a 8 goals, 6 assists, multiple competitions. Nice season from him as well. Okay, Canadian of the Year. That is always
David
going
Goss.
to be from our honorary Canadian, David Goss.
I think in a positive for the Canadian national team, this was actually a tough list because all of the Montreal guys got sold last year, where it was like competitive of Alistair Johnston and
Ismail Kone.
Kone and a lot of good pieces. I think Richie Laryea in the convo, played for 2 different Canadian teams over the course of this year. But as I think Tom points out, at a designated player level now, higher expectations. I don't know that he overperformed that. Kamal Miller, I think, took a step back this year. Joel Waterman's been really good.
If we're considering everything, and we are,
yeah.
Kamal Miller.
Leagues Cup, don't get me started.
Why not?
Go.
Because they would give up.
Your job is to get started on stuff like.
Because they'd give up
do
5
your job. Do your job.
Because when Messi's not on the field, they give up 5 goals. So you don't get to count the games that Messi was on the field for in Leagues Cup.
They won a trophy.
Yeah, they did.
He played every minute.
Yeah.
And he kept playing every minute. And he ran out of gas down the stretch. So you're penalizing him for winning a trophy.
You know what? Doyle wasn't around for this initial debate. I'm a little bit swayed by this argument.
Goss hasn't even given his winner yet.
Yeah.
We all know his winner. We all saw the All-Star game.
There was a consultation that happened.
We all
with
know
the
that
big
David
guy.
has a direct line to the top floor.
Yeah, Matthew Chouanier. He is the winner. His team's going to make the playoffs, unlike Kamal
Are they?
Miller's team.
They have to go on the road
Stop.
to Columbus. They're going to lose 5-0.
Stop. Yeah, Montreal's going to make the playoffs. It's going to be because of him. He has played
Mark it down
3
on it.
different positions for them as they have adjusted from Nancy to Lasada, selling, as we just said, some of the best players in the league, bringing in new young players. He has been consistent. He's filled in for Wanyama when necessary. He's filled in at left wing back. He's helped create goals when they've needed it in big moments. He's broken into the national team. He's one of the best passers in the league. He is, to me, the only player on this list that has consistently been good the entire season.
Okay, I don't hate it. Did you say Ali Ahmed? Did you include him in?
No, because as I was trying to get through the list of people I'm going to mention, listen, no one likes Kamal. You just only vote for Syracuse guys. Is that what's happening? I found a wedge in the argument. I found a gap to get through.
Throw something at you.
Got
I
yourself
love
back in
Kamal
control
Miller.
on that one.
I think Kamal Miller is fantastic. He was better last year. He had a better
changing
season.
my vote to UConn's and Kosi Tafari for Defender of the Year.
Okay.
UConn legend.
How did I?
Did
You know
he
what?
play
It's
for like 2 games and then
No,
transferred
he
to
played
Seattle?
3 years for
Yeah.
Ray Reid, and then he was like,
Yeah.
the biggest upset of this entire show right now is you've never mentioned that before. I did not know Tafari was a UConn guy.
Well, he finished at Seattle. Just telling
okay,
you.
got it. Okay.
He didn't get drafted
Domino.
from UConn.
Domino.
Yeah.
Anything to add here?
I think we said it all.
I think so.
Tom's like, I would love for this award to be over.
No, it's good.
CONCACAF Player of the Year. This does not include Americans or Canadians for obvious reasons. We just gave awards for those. 2022, Andre Blake was the winner. Oh, by the way,
UConn's Andre Blake.
yeah, the Canadian of the Year in 2022 was Alistair Johnson. I just wanted to
Another player that got sold.
put that out there. So we had a number of really good candidates. Once again, this is a fun category from Alex Roldan to Alan Polito. Of course, Andre Blake back in this category once again, even though I don't think as good this year than last year. Anibal Godoy continues to, how old is he now? Is he approaching our Golden Age Award?
He's got to be 32 or so, I imagine.
No,
Coco Carrasquilla is here as well, but we've doubled up.
33.
Yeah, that's, getting up there. We've doubled up.
But he'll
Hector
be
Herrera.
34. No,
Yeah,
just kidding.
almost. Is that he's your age?
Me?
Yeah.
His birthday's in February of 1990. So he's older than me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to nail you down.
What
here.
is happening?
Trying to figure it out.
Do you not know my birthday?
No, I forgot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, then that sounds like a personal
Yeah,
problem.
it is. Hector Herrera is our winner, the CONCACAF Player of the Year, but we should give Coco Carrasquilla this time since we've already discussed Ache. Coco between the Gold Cup, which I think we can kind of fold in here as a rose up.
Folding national team player.
Yeah, I don't
Just
know.
a little bit, just
He deservedly won player of the tournament at the
Yeah.
Gold Cup. He was awesome.
Yeah.
And it's not just Gold Cup. It's obviously his contributions with Houston as well. Ache to me is more of sort of a consistent of what you're going to get from him game to game. Whereas Coco's a little bit more of a wild card. Like one game he might be driving into the box. The other game he might be the guy making the last ditch tackle.
To be clear, he is always effective and he is always important.
Yeah.
Your point is he is flexible in the way he affects the
Yes.
game. And he's been that way since he got to Houston, pre-Ache being there, and
Right.
then adjusting as Ache got there. And at times when they don't have a D-mid, whatever it is, he has been flexible in whether he is an attacking player, a little bit more defensive, creative, mainly along that right side. But they play through him a ton. Anders seems to think that Gold Cup does count and national team does
I don't
count.
see why national team
Yeah,
stuff
I don't
would
think
count.
it's
Well, it doesn't
relevant.
I think
it
it's
doesn't-
what you've done with your club team in all competitions counts.
And he has helped them become one of the ball dominant teams in the league.
Yeah.
A team that didn't give up a goal for 6 straight games with a list of defenders that I don't think most of us would choose to start a game because they dominate the ball and they know how they're going to play, and they won a U.S. Open Cup.
And as they have gone on, they have become more effective going forward. And a big part of that is Coco not just being brilliant with the ball, but also really tactically a sophisticated central midfielder who can add numbers defensively when they need to, but then still gets forward and does stuff like hit 30-yard back-heeled through balls to lead to, like, that is the best pass of the year, that through ball that he back-heeled. I want to say it was for Corey Baird, maybe in May or June. It was spectacular. But it's one of like a dozen spectacular goals that Houston have scored this year, and he's at the center of all of it.
Yeah, Bossy comes in off the wing. He'll go wide and take up space as well. He's awesome.
It's the combo play around the box, though. That is just like,
It looks like
excellent.
5-a-side a lot of the
and
time.
we think he's going to get sold for like a big number to a pretty big league team, which is exciting for him.
I still can't believe it didn't happen in the summer. Like, it's awesome for Houston that it didn't, but like, it's crazy.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. Left to right back of the year, Doyle, this is one for you. Give us some contenders and then a winner. Kai Wagner, won in 2020.
Yeah, and he's back in it this year. Just to note, because I think we're about to get into it, I consider wingbacks and wingbacks in a 5 or a 3 and fullbacks in a 4 to functionally serve the same role in modern soccer, right? Because everybody ends up getting into a 3-2-2-3 attacking shape with the ball. Everybody does, whether you're starting with a 4 or a 5 or a 3. And the wingback or fullback, their job is to create attacking width and depth. And then you have to get back because it's still a hybrid position. It's not a static position. So Alvaro Barreal, Julian Gressel with his Columbus days, because he played as a central midfielder primarily in Vancouver. Those guys are eligible in this list, and just on the body of work, to me, it's Barreal this year.
Walk people
100%.
through it. I feel like we've done this a ton. We've praised him, but Ajax is interested for a reason.
Ajax is interested because in terms of a wide attacker who still has defensive chops and understands his defensive responsibility, it just doesn't get much better than Alvaro Barreal. He does not settle for crosses. If the cross is there early, he'll hit it, but he does not settle for hopeless crosses into the scrum. He would rather play.
Yeah.
And for him, playing means becoming a wide playmaker. And if you look at the Lucho drops wide left. Barreal spreads the field and makes a penetrating run. The run isn't there. He comes back and combo play with Lucho, creating triangles to get Lucho the ball in the left channel. Lucho's on the ball in the left channel. Barreal's going to make a penetrating run around the edge, always providing that outlet. If he gets the edge, gets on the ball, he could do a guy 1v1, get to the end line, and then pull it back for Vasquez, Bupenza, or Lucho, making the third man run as a spot. Like all the stuff that you would want from an attacking left fullback or wingback, Barreal has done it at an elite level constantly throughout the season, and I'm going to miss watching him next year.
There are so many attacking players that we all say, oh, if you put them at wingback, they get a runway, and then they can attack defenders that are static, and they can take advantage, and very few actually do it. Barreal is willing to take anyone on, create chances, and so there are times when Lucho wasn't in, where Barreal was an attacking outlet for this team.
And he came here as an attacking midfielder.
Winger.
He came here as a 10.
Yeah.
And like we talked about Alan Velasco developing an MLS to the point where he got into the national team pool for Argentina. Barreal's next. He's going to get capped within the next couple of years by Argentina because like he's a better attacking option than anybody that they have at left back right now.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, except he's not. He shouldn't be eligible for this award. He's not a left back. He's a left mid, man. Like
I agree with everything you said, except for the entire premise.
Except for the premise. Yeah, I just reject the premise. They have usually more, particularly when Santi Arias isn't available. Like it's more like lopsided. Like so, he's even less of a wingback when Santi Arias isn't there. Like he's a left mid, closer to a winger than I'd say left back. I don't think he should.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot then, Tom. So if you've disqualified internally Alvaro Barreal, who does win the extra time left back or right back of the year award, who would it be for you on this list? We have a bunch of other top outside backs in the league. Who would you choose if not for Barreal?
Using my own argument, I would have to also rule out John Gallagher. So then I'd probably just end up giving it back to Kai Wagner. John Tolkien would be probably close to that. But it's not like there was other standouts. But like Barreal's a left mid, man. He's a left mid.
Well, I think a lot of these guys had good years. Tolkien, Brooks Lennon, Alex Roldan. I think Hollinshead has deserved it for 2 years.
Yeah.
And he plays both sides for them when they need him. But the buzzer.
Okay, yeah, we hear you. D-Mid of the year, Tom, take us away. Victor Wanyama won in 2022, and we have a nice group here. Who is the winner for you?
Yeah, Obina and Nwobodo, FC Cincinnati. Again, obviously they're leading the Supporters Shield. They won the Supporters Shield. Sorry, they're been the best team in the league all year. They're gonna dominate a lot of these award categories because, like, again, D-Mid center backs, they get recognized for team performance. Nwobodo, from the day he debuted, like, raised everything that Cincy did defensively. They didn't, when they were first tracking him, they were hopeful to make him like a max 10 player with the transfer fee included. And then as negotiations were going on and he was continuing to play better and better and better for, I forget which Turkish team he came from, but the price kept going up. And to their credit, instead of saying, well, we had this number for this position, we can't go over, we'll go get somebody else. Like, no, like, he's worth it. And the way, like, his numbers in defensive transition was what they were looking for most. He's like a one-man wrecking crew in the midfield, and he makes everybody around him better and their jobs easier. And I think that he's been even better this year. And I think he's the clear D-Mid of the year.
You could also give him the ball in a tough spot, right? Because he has good feet and he's not a visionary passer. He's not Ache level as a number 8, but he does see the whole field and he makes it easier. The minor pushback I'll give it, like, I wasn't even thinking to say number 8, but he is, to me, more of a number 8 in that he doesn't sit and conduct. He's more of a box-to-box destroyer. Nwobodo, yeah. Whereas it's Junior Moreno who is more sit and protect. And when I talk of D-Mids, I think more of guys who sit and protect. I don't really have a problem with this. We should mention Artur, though, because he has been absolutely fantastic at the sit and conduct part for this Houston team. And like all the praise we gave to Ache and Coco Carrasquilla about how they dominate games in midfield, Artur deserves that share of the praise as well.
Andres Kubas is another name of sort of a guy that just sits in that position and protects, and then is the guy that sort of sprays and gets things started when it comes to the possession phase. Anybody else? I mean, Aiden Morris we threw out there, but he's kind of in the dual 8s with
I think,
Nagbe. Diego Chara, I mean, the Orlando, we've talked about their pair, their double pivot.
Paulo, Jose Martinez deserves a shout again. He's fantastic.
Pablo Ruiz.
Pablo Ruiz had an inside track to perhaps win this award until he got hurt, and you saw the effect it had on RSL. Okay, first-year pro / college player of the year. It can be a college player. It could also be a homegrown player. Last year, Roman Celentano was our winner. This year, look, it's a better group than we thought it was going to be when we first went through it. David Ruiz and Benjamin Kromaski both qualify because this is their first pro year. They were academy players in MLS Next Pro last year. Andrew Privet, hey, you know what? He's walked into that Charlotte lineup. They might be a playoff team, TBD, but it is Big Dunk. Duncan McGuire, and that leads to the opening of this box. Doyle, we've brought yours.
This is from Orlando City.
Yes.
Teams sending out bribes.
And I've brought mine along too because I can't stand to watch somebody else open a gift when I could also be opening one.
Christmas in the Wiebe household must be great.
Okay. Boom.
Oh,
read the sticker.
Nice.
No,
we've got a purple mug here from Orlando City. What? Hand wash only?
No. Dr. Doyle.
Orlando runs on Duncan.
Yeah, that's
right
good
there.
stuff.
Yeah,
I thought it was great.
I did
laughed
too, and I
out loud. When
I love Dunkin' Donuts. It's my favorite coffee store. That's like my favorite chain or whatever. Like
they geared this specifically.
That's very New England of you.
It's very New Jersey of him, by the way, because you can't find like anything. I love donuts, and there's not exactly.
I got a Colorado Rapids mug
here.
A couple years ago from their PR team there. I use it every day.
Yeah,
so now
it's a good mug.
Now it's going into the.
You can take it camping with us.
Got into the mix.
Yeah. It's not going to break on you.
I thought this was well done, Orlando. Respect, well played. Now, I find it interesting that they chose this as the campaign to lean into, because as was sort of showed, Robin Hansen probably is closer to getting.
Yeah, young player is a tough one.
There's no
just no way.
But there's no Robin runs on Duncan, so they had to go with Duncan.
Yeah.
Just the numbers.
Is there a Robin Hood one that you could go with?
There you go.
Wordplay.
13 goals, 3 assists in 1,652 all competitions minutes.
I don't know why that was so funny.
For Duncan McGuire this year. To compare it, a couple years ago, Daryl Dike had 8 goals, 3 assists in about 1,400 or 1,500 almost minutes a couple years ago. And then go back all the way to 2015. Kyle Larin in his rookie year had 18 goals and an assist in just under 2,000 total minutes. That was obviously a much worse team.
If you go back 10 years, the rookie of the years, Duncan McGuire had a better year than almost anyone who won those awards.
Yeah.
Tasha Akindele, CJ Sapong, Corey Baird.
Yep.
Pretty much McGuire, and he didn't start the year.
Right.
He pushed out a designated player, center forward. Not pushed him out, but like the team was better with him on the field. And Ramiro Enrique. He outplayed both of them. And I don't think Orlando clinches a playoff spot as early as they do if he doesn't come around as a starter for them.
Let me ask this question, because I was thinking about it when we were talking Brian White. If Duncan McGuire stayed in Major League Soccer for the next 3 seasons, Duncan McGuire all comps versus Brian White all comps, Doyle, who do you take for having more goals?
That's really good. The underlying numbers say you're stupid to pick against Brian White.
No, but Andres wasn't into that conversation.
Neither was Gus. I guess.
Yeah.
This is an arbitrary group of people.
Yeah, it's a podcast. What else are we doing around these parts? All right,
I would take Patrick Ajimong over both of them. So.
Patrick Ajimon has a real chance. Man.
Unreal.
He is really good.
Kind of wish he didn't play for a team that spent 2 DP spots on a center forward.
Hey,
It's just me.
Well, I thought that was gonna be Capetti slander, but
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, our golden
Cool. Good
Shy away
transition.
from that.
Golden Years Player of the Year, 35 plus. This would be Lionel Messi's award, obviously, because we're including everything. But Lionel Messi doesn't have Golden Years.
If you stay quiet enough, you can hear Wiebe's ankles clicking while he talks about that.
That is not false. Although, one thing I thought about in Lisbon is that if I lived in a hilly city, the rest of my life would be so much more rich. My mobility and strength through the roof. Anyway,
There's so many.
Lionel
people hiking in New
Messi.
Jersey.
Lionel
Yes.
Messi does not count here because he never ages and therefore is disqualified.
forever young is what you're saying.
Forever young. Now, this is a bad omen. Ali Bedoya won in 2022.
How's that a bad omen?
Well, Ali Bedoya has been apparently sent to pasture by Ernst Tanner
Said that he's not in the plans.
in a 20-minute
Like
conversation.
20-second
I mean, we got Jakub Glesnes coming out on Instagram arguing this. This is a big point ahead
Players
of
aren't
decision day in the
thrilled.
playoffs.
By the way,
Can you
Ernst
imagine?
Tanner's kind of had a brutal year. None of his offseason signings really worked out that great. Ty Baribo has been in nothing.
Jesus Bueno it wasn't this offseason, but he's been good.
That was a slow burn right there.
Kind of point. They're also still in third in the East.
Yeah, that's fair.
They don't really care. They care about CCL.
Okay, players on the list. Kai Kamara. It's sadly. I mean, it felt like he was going to blow past
First
Landon
half of the
Donovan this
season,
year,
yeah.
and then we've been waiting and waiting. I hope for his sake he gets the goal that he needs on decision day, but TBD on that one. Stephen Fry is definitely in here. Giorgio Chiellini, Dax McCarty.
Stephen Fry's in here. Tim Melia has to be in here.
Tim Melia is also on this list.
Didn't look at the list.
Yeah. And Billy Sharp. Just saying.
Sharp.
Who is our golden year's player
Billy
of the
Sharp,
year?
better goals per 90 than Messi in MLS.
Hard to argue against
6
that.
goals. Billy Sharp this season.
It's Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry is the goalkeeper for the second best defense in the league. I thought it was a bounce back year.
Doesn't even
for
have to
him.
try. Jackson Reagan plays on that.
And
back.
Jaimar.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
It's a fair
And
point.
João Paulo? That's chill.
Give an award to everyone else
Walk
on that
in the park.
defense.
If you were to look at this list
Yeah.
and say how many teams would each player on this list start for?
29 for Sharpie, mate.
All right, we're just going to
So-
lead into the bit. That's fine.
So, but in saying that, if we're taking Messi out, I think Chiellini's debatable that he would start. For
He
a
can't
lot
go
of
90
teams.
minutes. He's like Tom in a men's league game.
I think he's still a better center back than half the guys these teams are starting.
That's for sure. He's brilliant.
but,
Six for 60
Stephen
minutes.
Fry unquestionably is the
Most effective player on this
Yes.
list.
yes, and for the best team.
Yeah.
Congrats, Steph.
Yeah, Steph is the choice. The
Weeby,
honorable mention.
Weeby
to
looks
Billy
sad.
Sharp.
Weeby's body
He was,
language.
he was
trying to-
spending the
no, I
last
was
3.5 minutes
I
just
was
putting his
trying to-
hand in the box and like rummaging around. He was
Yeah,
just like,
I was just trying to find a reason in here to say Billy Sharp, and I just
Oh,
came
he was
up
looking for
empty.
more swag.
Yeah, it just came up
He was
empty.
hoping to get
Like,
like, a
well, I know
Oscar
that's
right
it.
here.
Huh?
bro, that's it.
Just a mug? No. I'm
He
just-
thought there'd be a legit Robin.
yeah,
So-
no, not
A bribe in the bottom of the box.
Yeah.
The Ilsinho super sub of the year. Doyle, Dan Jovic won last year, and that's a tough omen as well for this one. You can do the honors. We didn't choose a player, though. A little bit of a different bit.
We chose a philosophy, the St. Louis City 60th minute line change. There are 5 subs now in professional soccer, and coaches around the world have been a little bit slow on the uptake as to what that means in how you can play, how you can change the game, when you can change the game. Not Bradley Carnell. He understands that you can bring in an entire new shift right around the hour mark. And if you look at it, St. Louis have used, I think, every single sub available, or maybe all but 2 subs available to them all season long. So they're always fresh down the stretch. That is a huge part of why they have won a lot of games in the second half and why they're still fresh going down the stretch this season. It also allowed him to develop young players and realize, oh, Nico Gioacchini could be an answer for us from the start of the game, not just for the final 15, 25 minutes, whatever it is. And that helped them get through the season. But
Vasilev.
even when they were shorthanded because of injuries, he still kept going down the list. And more than any single player this season coming off the bench, that willingness to change the game with a 60th minute line change, that's been like the defining substitution of the year.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to get across the red zone into the opposing team's zone, dump the puck, dump it. I just did a lot of Googling.
Red zone?
Yeah, I don't
The
know.
red
I don't know.
zone in hockey.
Anders challenged
Game's
me to
changed
bring
a
in
lot.
hockey into this, and I had to do a lot of Googling, and I biffed it. I'm so sorry. That was a poor form there. This is why the commenters on the iTunes reviews hate me. I can really feel that.
Hey, most of them love you.
Level Up Player of the Year, David Goss. Tell me all about this award, what it means, how much you understand it, and why you love it.
I don't get this award. It feels like this is the same as both comeback and Goss Theorem and I don't know whatever else we did. I don't really understand who goes in this list.
So Brandon Vasquez won last year. It's for a player who makes a huge jump.
By the way, congratulations, Brandon Vasquez, for winning last year.
Yeah.
Must have been big for him.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
He almost got sold to Borussia Mönchengladbach
Because
off
of
this.
the award.
Oh, yeah. How do you think they scout MLS?
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
They're
the
in
candidates this
iTunes.
year,
Yeah.
Jackson Reagan is in this one. Steven Herrera is in the argument
great
for
one.
Level Up. Jack Mayer or Lucas McNaughton, depending on whether you want to go with a player with big expectations or
But, like,
close
is
to none.
Benjamin Kromoski not in this? Because he
No.
wasn't
No,
in
'cause he's
MLS
too
last
young.
Nothing to level up from.
Yeah, he's too young. What is he? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't Kosi Tafara in this?
Oh, yeah, he could be.
He should be.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
He
cool.
was good last year, too.
Sure.
Yeah, but he's better this year. He's played more.
So you're starting. It sounds like you're starting to understand.
So
Let me
Brian
talk this
White
one out.
wins this award.
Brian
What
White,
we
I think,
decided.
is well. Yeah, we can debate it. We put it in as Brian White, but Brian White was a double-digit goal scorer before this year, wasn't
He was, I think, twice.
he?
I
So
think he
maybe
did
it's
it
not that
in-
big of a
in
level up.
19
Maybe it's
with
just
with the Red
a
Bulls.
leveling of the expectations for Brian White.
Yeah. Like Brian White was healthy, so he got enough time. Whereas Jackson Reagan, I have Jackson Reagan third on my Defender of the Year balloting. And it's not just because of his defense. He's actually really good with his passing. He breaks lines. He's hit a level as a player I'd never thought he would hit. And the same kind of goes for Ngozi Tafari,
Yeah, except I knew Tafari would hit this level.
because you're a big UConn guy.
Yeah. Tafari is unbelievable, and you could see it. It's just he had to get experience and get level. Jackson Reagan luckily plays in front of the Golden Gate Bridge or whatever we call that award. Behind
Golden
the
years.
comeback player of the year, alongside the defender of the year and the Concacaf player
And also
of the
probably
year.
the Wilfred Nancy Defender of the Year.
Do we have a CAF
in
player
Weimar.
of the year?
We could.
Like an African Federation
I've
player?
done best 11s before.
You have.
From CAF.
Yeah, I'll still give Brian White this award, mainly because I don't understand it.
If you were pressed, Tom, Brian White versus Jackson Reagan versus Steven Herrera, who'd you go with?
I give it to Brian White.
I was hoping we'd have.
Can you explain
split.
Can you explain the award?
I think the Goss just covered that.
Yeah.
Okay,
How do
got
we?
it.
I feel like Indiana Vasilev gets in this convo, no?
Where were you during
I
the
think,
production
yeah,
meeting?
I didn't
These
really
names are
understand.
all-
He
I
was
didn't really
he was
understand
reading
the
off
award.
the Jets' strength of schedule to Anders during the production meeting.
First of all, the Liberty
To be-
are back from the dead. Fear us, Las Vegas Aces.
To be fair,
And the
for
Jets
somebody
are-
who
So
says they
let's-
don't understand the award very well, you're putting in a lot of good nominees.
Yeah, it feels
So
like
it
I am.
sounds like you probably do
Feels like I
understand.
fixed it.
Anders is saying in my ears unanimously that Jackson Reagan is the choice of the control room. So
Because
we've already
did
given
Maria
Brian,
walk out?
we gave Brian White an award, didn't we?
I think
No.
he
American of the Year.
No, give it to him.
Oh yeah.
We
Okay,
did.
Brian White, you're our level up player of the year. Congratulations. Sorry to Jackson
New
Reagan.
Jersey Mario
Bounce back.
Gomez, baby.
Bounce back next year. Okay, these are fun. These are definitely
It's funny
Tom's
because Mario
territory.
Gomez technically runs a soccer team in New Jersey.
It does.
So he is himself.
Oh, this is
New
a very
Mario.
Jersey-centric show. Executive
Well, talking
of
soccer in America.
the year. Tom, who's your executive of the year so that we ensure that you get some angry texts?
there's
After
and we're gonna go through these as well. That I think that there are several handful candidates, but I think it's Lutz Fan and Steel with what they did. Again, spend versus expectation versus everything that comes with an expansion rollout. He nailed the head coaching hire. They did it correctly in the vision of, okay, we want to play like this. Bradley Carnell wants to play the same way, and that informs all of the decisions you make. Look, they got criticized pretty heavily for Roman Berkey just because of, you don't have to spend that much money on a goalkeeper. Like, where's the value? Whatever. He's gonna win goalkeeper of the year, right? Like, you kind of go the expansion draft. I didn't hate it, but I was like, I think it'll be solid, and getting Giacchini out of that, and everything else that they've gotten.
Vasilev also.
Yeah,
came.
Vasilev. Like, those are two really good players, like, out of the expansion draft. I thought that this was going to be more of a depth thing. You go to the DPs, they've hit on Leuven and Klaus. And again, Berkey, I think he's technically a placeholder, but whatever. So both in terms of like the bigger signings that St. Louis made, they've hit. And the low-key within the league guys, they've hit. And again, like the entire front office, scouting department, coaching staff, they all deserve credit for all of this as well. But again, I think it'd be pretty difficult to not give this one to Lutz Van Ensel in St. Louis, but there are a few other really, really good candidates that we're going to talk about.
So the signings are always going to get, and sort of the efficiency of those signings are going to get a lot of the attention for an award like this. I wonder how far back we should look with Lutz in St. Louis in terms of, he was a part of the front office and leading that charge to get Hackworth in.
Yeah.
John Hackworth, which is a huge addition. To get Bradley Carnell in early, to get the designated players in early. How much of that do you think was his thrust versus ownership? Like, was that all Lutz?
Yeah, it was Lutz's push, but like ownership could have said, no, we don't want to spend 6 months of salary on a team that isn't playing. So
Well-
like ownership deserves a lot of credit.
Well, but that's also part of an executive's job to make the case
Yeah.
to ownership why they should do
Yeah.
this and to get that
Yeah.
over the line. Okay.
And sorry, and the other side of that too is that like they believe that the pool, in addition to they wanted the players to be in early and start to adapt to the city and the club and everything else, they believe that they could get better players in June, July, August than December, January.
Got it. So, Lutz, from Extra Time to you. Congratulations.
Can I just throw out, they've also gone into one of the great soccer markets in America and have, I think, navigated well their academy, which is not easy. Like Miami has struggled with it at times, which is like you can't step on everyone's toes, but you also are trying to figure out how do you create yourself as like, we're the one to come to a professional ranks and we're not trying to ruin everyone's business model. We're trying to be a part of the community. And I think Lutz was sort of at the front of a lot of that and has done a good job. And I think Caden Glover is going to come through. Miguel Perez was already a factor. Like you look at how long it took Inter Miami, and I guess COVID's a part of that. And look at Nashville and Cincinnati, like how long it took them to put this together. And St. Louis has hit the ground running.
Keep that hand off the buzzer, Anders, because we got to give some.
Yeah, this
other
one's going to
quick
go a little long.
plaudits. Chris Albright has to be in this conversation for everything that he does with Cincinnati. It's not just building into this; it's
And I
navigating.
think Chris Albright, unfortunately, you'll just get a supporter shield. So you're not going to get this.
But I mean, Brenner situation, Vasquez potentially moving, bringing in Bupenza then to replace. I'm trying to think of other big moves.
The big one to me with
Arias?
with
Mosquera.
Cincinnati is that they sold Brenner, replaced him with I think a better player, navigated what ego struggle I think we all saw between Bupenza and Lucho at the start, to the point where now they're like hugging each other after goals, which is fantastic. And Pat Noonan deserves a lot of credit for that too. But also they didn't sell Brandon Vasquez and they didn't sell Barreal. And we have seen moves like that destroy teams in the past. And they were able, and like, again, Pat Noonan deserves a ton of credit for all this, but they were able to get the buy-in that they needed. And that speaks to a really healthy team culture. And I think in a lot of ways that is set by the chief soccer officer, GM. So all Rangers, Tim Bezpachenko.
Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously the Julian Gressel trade, Rudy Camacho, Cherebko getting him, the
Fernandez.
stones it took to sell Lucas Zelarayan mid-season and bring in Diego Rossi, who's a very different but I think more effective player. But the big one to me is doing what he did to get Wilfried Nancy before this season, it's not outside of the box if you're a sports fan. We see these types of moves all the time in various leagues. But in MLS, we have not seen a Team A say, all right, Team B, what can we give you for your coach?
You're under contract coach.
You're under contract. Like, we had not seen that before. That was huge.
Well, and they had the ear to the ground, Bez and his group, of like knowing Nancy potentially would be open to it.
Yep.
I don't know that everyone knows which coach is kind of going to be open to that conversation, that he fit what they were building. And then, to their credit, stuck to their guns of like keeping the roster together, not over complicating it and saying to ownership, yeah, we were bad last year, we need to flip the roster. Like, they brought in Nancy, they gave up resources there, and then they kept everyone else and turned the team into a successful team.
We're getting a lot of talk from Anders here about timing, but I think that over the course of the show, we've created the time to just quickly finish here. We have not, according to Anders. Chris Henderson, great, obviously, window for him in saving all the resources, understanding when the sanctions were going to sort of run out and they would have freedom and flexibility to make the 3 U22 signings, obviously Messi and Busquets and Alba and everything else. I mean, it's hard not to have him win this award. I think he's out of contract too, is he not?
Chris Henderson, I'm very, very certain that he's out of contract this winter. Not to suggest that he's definitely leaving, but like I didn't know until recently that the contract was coming
He
up.
could come run this show.
And with Henderson, like, again, you could point to, ownership drove the Messi signing and everything else, and then Messi drove Busquets and Alba, right? Like, they probably don't sign without Messi coming. And Tata gets a lot of credit for some of the U22s and helping bring those players in, but everything that Chris Henderson has done, first of all, to reset this roster when he took over, and then to have the planning that the structure was perfect.
Yeah, you have to be able to fit all those pieces in under the cap.
Yeah, and like pieces who fit perfectly with these other players, like spending your resources on DeAndre Yedlin and Gregory, and then Kamal Miller during the season, and having Drake Calendar. Like, those are the players to invest in when you think you're going to get Lionel Messi and Sergio Busquets, right? Like, it is a masterclass in maximizing the value of fitting a roster together.
Garth Lagerwey, Carlos Bocanegra get a shout here for everything they did to turn this team around mid-season, from the Yakumakis signing to that was early in the season, but then all the mid-season changes as well. And Pat Onstad should get a big shout as well for the turnaround in Houston, but apparently we don't have enough time. So keep moving. Blockbuster transaction of the year. This is MLS mechanisms only.
Which is where we could have just done the Chris Henderson thing, because it's the Kamal Miller trade. He traded Bryce Duke, and he got Kamal Miller and $1.3 million in allocation money to be able to make the signings and fit everything under the roster. The trade didn't make sense at the time. We're not even talking about Bryce Duke. Like, that's not a part of the conversation. The fact that you got a Canadian international starter at a position of need and $1.3 million in allocation for a team that, remember, is still dealing with the punishments coming out of the original management group.
And part of the math on that was also that it was like, is Kamal Miller just going to go to Europe? Because that's what he said. So maybe it's sort of like a rental deal. But no, they re-signed Kamal Miller. Yeah. So you start to check all the boxes down the list.
Yeah, so that was the trade of the year. And it was done it felt like a position of weakness for them.
A position of complete weakness. So to get that, to get him under contract for long term. Also, just like, he's a left-footed, 6 foot tall center back who is good defending on the back foot, maybe even better defending on the front foot, is really brave about the passes he hits and about carrying the ball. Like,
he loves the dribble.
Everything that Tata Martino asks of his center backs, check. And like, he doesn't.
He's a little bit of a LGP.
I didn't know what that was.
Memory there.
It just didn't sound like check, so I didn't know. I thought we had to reboot Doyle.
I wish he went on for like 15 seconds.
Checks a lot of boxes, is what I'm saying. That is hands down the transaction of the year. The only one that I think is also worth, Blockbuster transaction. The only other one that is, I think, worth mentioning is the Gressel trade for Columbus, because when that happened, all of us were like, ooh, Columbus, they're a good team. I think they're a year away. And then that happens, and we're like, oh, this team, they could get it done this year.
Bezpachenko, eyes everywhere, huh? Knows Nancy wants to perhaps move on, although after all the reports of
eyes
arguments
everywhere,
outside
or maybe
the locker room.
just in Canada. Because
Yeah.
the Vancouver and
And
Montreal
New
game.
Julian Gressel wanted to come
Yeah,
back
it was
east. So,
late to the
yeah,
table for
congratulations
Kamal
to him.
Miller.
Yeah.
2022, by the way, we had Julian Carranza as the winner of this, which is interesting because, and we called that one theft
Yeah,
because it was theft from Inter Miami, it seemed like. Now Inter Miami flipped that around. So,
congrats.
yeah, well done. Bargain bin transaction of
Did
the year.
we Artur should be the other one I think mentioned.
Is
there.
that a Blockbuster?
He's in this
Bargain
one.
bin.
That was not a Blockbuster.
Oh,
Bargain bin transaction of the
David
year.
is having a shocker.
just
Yeah,
getting into
They, you know how they say you go to Europe to test yourself and like come back at a higher level? David Goss has come back at such a lower level.
I'm just bringing Cairo driving energy. If these are the 3 lanes, they don't exist.
2022 Alejandro Pozuelo is the bargain bin transaction of the year. Did we decide on one? We have
Yeah.
Schaffelberg, Artur. Oh yeah, we did. It's basically the entire expansion draft for St. Louis City.
Plus, and like Azeel Jackson for 150,000 allocation.
I mean, a Dinnerin was how much did a Dinnerin cost
50.
them? 50? 50?
I believe so.
Oh my
Off my
god.
head.
They did St. Louis. Their roster build has been fantastic. I think we covered a lot of that in giving Luke's and company the executive of the year. Go ahead, Tom.
100,000 plus 100,000 additional, so up to 200. But
I would
100,000.
assume they hit the 200.
And boy, could the Sounders use a Denerin right now. Boy, could they use him right now. But let's take a second. Artur, they got him for 300,000 in GAM. I think around this time last year, maybe a little later.
Yeah, it was
than
or
that.
very early in the offseason. Yeah,
It was very early in the offseason. We all thought he was broken. We
Yeah.
thought he was done physically.
Yeah.
He has held up remarkably. I think he's started just about every game for this team. And it's good to see him get back because this is a guy who a couple years ago we thought, oh man, if he could get his U.S. citizenship, he's in the mix as that number 6. And like, given the struggles that we saw from the U.S. midfield without Tyler Adams yesterday, I wouldn't hate to see Artur in red, white, and blue at least get a look in the camp in January. I would expect him to be there, as a matter of fact.
And of
because
course,
he is a U.S. citizen.
Berhalter brought him into the league.
That's
and
right.
Helped build
Mhm.
the Pipa Higuain team around.
The
And he-
2018 team was his best season probably in MLS. Overall, like 2,700 minutes played. He is just behind that this year.
I think this is the best
30
I've ever
games
seen
started.
Artur play. I
30
think he's
games.
better at keeping the ball on the ground and still keeping things organized and always in front of him. If you watch that Houston Dynamo team play, there are no runouts against them. Like they do not allow counterattacks, which is something wild considering how much they use the ball. And that entire midfield deserves the most credit. Artur is a huge part of that.
All right. One more award in this show, and then
That's it.
yeah, well then we'll do some work on 5 best 11s or fewer, or just let Doyle do it
more.
off the top of his head. Personality of the Year 2021 Vanni Sartini won this award. Andiamo. 2022 Joseph Martinez was the winner, flipping tables of chicken and rice, etc. And in 2023 the award goes to Jorge Mas, Inter Miami owner, among a few, including his brother David Beckham. I think they could all be in this mix, but Jorge seemed to be in the lead when it came to the headlines and to making comments and to just helping us all follow the Messi storyline via Twitter throughout the process. So Jorge Mas, Personality of the Year, changed the league. Inter Miami.
The Beckhams as well. Just
Mhm.
sprinkle a little bit more dust on that.
Yeah, I know the documentary that's out. Even my wife wants to watch that
There you
one.
go.
So, congratulations. Others in this mix,
And they
Lucho
play
was here.
Mark Anthony when they score goals, which we like.
Yeah. Yakumakis was here. Woods Fonensteel was in this conversation. Vanni Sartini again. We all saw the Vanni. Did you discuss that on the show? Did I miss it? Vanni Sartini doing Dance Dance Revolution before
No.
a match?
No.
Oh, I'm shocked they didn't do this while you weren't here.
Shocking. All right. Anything to add? Anything we missed? We have 3 minutes. This is an open 3 minutes.
I feel like we
Says-
missed a lot.
Yeah, go ahead. What did we miss?
I don't know. I think Nashville made a couple of good under the radar moves. I think Fafa Pico was
Was
a good move.
Schaffelberg this? No, Schaffelberg.
Schaffelberg.
last
He
year.
was-
Loan
Schaffelberg.
purchase
They
option.
officially signed.
Yeah, he was a
this year.
bargain bin
Schaffelberg and
transaction.
McNaughton was this year.
Yeah, McNaughton was a bargain
Fafa
bin.
Pico was
Those
for
are both in there.
100,000. Romney they gave up, but for 550 they got a lot, and they still have Jack.
I actually
Blair
think
and
that's a
McNaughton.
better trade for the Revs.
I
was
think
saying, that
that's
might
fair
have
as
been-
well.
if
I
we-
think that's a good
Do you
move.
qualify that as a blockbuster?
No, that would be an under the radar one.
That would be a bargain bin at 550.
Bargain bin, yeah.
So that's where we're at now in this league. I remember when 550 was like
Crazy. Yeah. But
Now it's
same with
just you
Denner,
find
it
that
was
under the couch
200
cushions.
before he'd even played in MLS. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it works. I think there's a lot of moves that go under radar, but now a lot of them are homegrown signings, so that's positive as well. But
We didn't do Teenager of the Year. We did that last year.
Yeah,
right?
we skipped that one.
It would be
would there-
Kramaski, Ruiz.
It'd be hard not to
No
give that
Buck.
one to.
I think
It'd be no Buck. For
I
me.
think Chris Brady would get it.
Oh,
for me,
no, you're probably
Yeah.
right.
right.
I think your top three is Chris Brady,
By the way, did we see?
Buck,
it?
and Kromoski.
Did you guys see this weekend the heat check from Pablo Mastroeni?
No.
On the road in LA, have come back from 2-0 down. It's 2-2. They're fighting for playoff seeding. 20 minutes to go in the game. He brings in a 15-year-old
Axel
and a
Kai,
16-year-old. Axel Kai and I've forgotten the other young man's name. He's
Gozo.
another attacker from their
Gozo?
Gozo.
Yeah,
Gozo. Yeah.
Yeah.
From the
Yeah, Axel Kai is what now the third youngest debutant in MLS history?
I believe so. Yeah.
He's older than Julian Hall, who already played this year.
Right.
Yeah, and Freddie, a dude.
Freddie,
Freddie is still the only 14-year-old. Still, hopefully,
In
he will
MLS.
forever be the youngest. to play.
Davion Kimbrough in USL Championship at 13 years
Yeah.
old made his
Yeah.
debut recently.
I don't want to see 14, 13. Like 15 is almost too young.
So the interesting thing about Kai, by the way, is he's on a 2-year deal that ends this year. When they signed him as a homegrown.
Interesting. When
He has, I think, interest overseas,
Scott.
and he is a early developing player. And so it kind of was like, if he's going to make it, he's going to make it. So it'll be interesting to see how he now goes on from this.
And by the way, FC Dallas, really glad that we did an awards show.
I was
on
just going to
this-
say, do we
on
have
this
any
episode.
comments on the Saturday games? There were 3. Dallas, a 1-1 draw at home against Colorado when they could have locked up their playoff positioning, basically.
So there's a like a
Chronically
principle-
under 1 expected goals. Just
a
chronically.
principle where it's like anytime the opposing defense is scrambled, do not let that go to waste. Attack that. And Dallas are like the complete opposite. Even if the opposing defense is scrambled, do not press the issue. Cycle the ball back, get into your 3-2-2-3 positional play, build out routine, move everything slowly, and eventually settle for a cross to the back post that is absolutely useless.
With no aerial threats.
Oh, they have been interminable. Just like even if they make the playoffs, this has been a very disappointing season for FC Dallas. To get a 1-1 draw at home. And by the way, this sets up, we're going to cover this on Wednesday or Thursday show. A decision day, a draw is probably not going to be good enough for them. They probably need to go to LA and beat the Galaxy in order to get in. Because if Sporting Kansas City wins at home against Minnesota, or if Minnesota wins that game, and if San Jose beat an Austin team that is abysmal right now at home, then Dallas is out. Dallas do not have the tiebreaker because they have won so few games this year, and their style of play is a culprit.
And early through the season, it was they lost Hedges. They didn't know what their center backs were. They didn't feel comfortable defensively. It was a way to control games, but they've never improved. They've never taken a
improved it.
step past
And
that.
also,
The
they
one
bought
Leagues
out
Cup
Frank
game.
O'Hara, who's a DP
Yeah.
center forward, and they have this open DP slot, and they have never filled that all season long. And so now you have Jesus Ferreira, who's your primary goal scoring threat, dropping 40 yards off the line to lob crosses in at wingers who aren't great goal scorers themselves. It's like you have an opening for number 9. Play Jesus Ferreira as a second forward. Play Alan Velasco as a 10. Look at the team in Cincinnati that just won the Supporters Shield. You can do a lot of that. You have a lot of guys who make a lot of sense as wingbacks who aren't great wingers. It's been right there for FC Dallas all year long, and they have refused steadfastly to take a step forward.
Speaking of this weekend, the Revs played 3 in the back and then didn't mark Sam Surge about 5 times in the box with 3 center backs on the field, which was remarkable. But Surge's finish on the last goal, I believe it was, Hani in transition.
Yeah. Ooh.
Hani plays Surge that ball in a spot he has played Teal and CJ and Yonder Cadiz and all these other guys over the last 3 years. And Surge places it into the far post, doesn't hit it with power, just puts it there.
Won't
And
even
it's like,
say Ake Lopez.
You can't say his
Yeah.
name because he didn't play.
'cause he
up
didn't
there.
play.
Yeah.
I think that match was a bit of a warning sign to other teams in the playoffs, which is you don't want Nashville.
Yeah.
And the Revs obviously were missing players for international. They're dangerous. I pushed Chancalay into this convo because he's like elite dangerous. And I think next year with Barrero back, they're going to be really good. But I don't know what that was with 3 center backs on the field. And literally Romney's marking space and Omar Gonzalez goes past the near post on Serge's second goal after Serge has already hit the crossbar and scored a goal.
Yeah. New England have been a wreck since the coaching change. Kind of understandable. Heading into decision day, if Nashville win and New England lose, it is not out of the realm of possibilities that Nashville hops New England on goal differential, could climb all the way up to 5th. New England could drop all the way down to 7th.
So, decision day preview coming on Thursday on
That was a
ExtraTime.
preview of our decision day
Yeah,
preview.
God, if that didn't get you locked in, I don't know what will. And of
Math.
course, on MLS Season Pass.
ETR
On
reward
Apple TV.
for previews of previews goes to us.
Yes. There will also be complete coverage. So I believe MLS 360 will be off and running, a big pregame show, big postgame show looking ahead to the playoffs.
Perfect day for it.
I know. We're almost there, man. We're almost there. The regular season has not one, but 2 more days because Inter Miami hosts Charlotte FC midweek on Wednesday. So tune in for that one. We will break it down on Thursday and get you ready for decision day. Thanks, as always, for sitting through 85 minutes of us talking about the inner sanctum of MLS. Congratulations. You've made it. Adios.